Hello everyone and welcome to the Jeep Gladiator High Altitude, and for all intents and purposes the High Altitude is the most road oriented version of the Gladiator. As you can see, we've got 20-inch rims and all season tires, and this particular one has the new for 2021 3-litre turbocharged V6 diesel, which was omitted from the launch of the JL Wrangler but was always intended for the Wrangler and the Gladiator. And I have to say that in this mid-size class of truck, I find that so many manufacturers are honing it in. They're only building those vehicles to offer them in class and kind of represent a poor representation of what the brand can do, because they want you to go out and spend more money on their full-size truck offerings, which are much more attractive products, better engineered, and have a lot more technology. But this one in particular may be a poor representation of value to the already premium price of a Gladiator. This is the most journalist special of all of the journalist specials, and we're going to talk about what that means later on in the video. But for now, let's get on the road and find out what this Gladiator is like to live with. Before we set off, let's actually start up the diesel engine so that you can hear what it sounds like. Doesn't require a long compression before the engine fires up, and when it settles down here right now, it's fairly refined. I can still very plainly hear it, and if I were to put my hand down on the center console, you can feel the vibration ever so slightly. But with 260 horsepower and 442 pound-feet of torque, that is a significant torque increase over the 3.6-litre gasoline Pentastar naturally aspirated V6. And with the diesel, you do have some respectable towing and payload numbers, but with the 3.6-litre V6 and with the towing package, you will get better figures. So with the diesel, you have a 1,300 payload capacity and 6,500 pound towing, and with the Pentastar V6, you'll have 1,600 payload and 7,650 towing. You can only fit the diesel with the 410 rear axle, and that's one of the biggest contributions to why the towing and payload capacity is lower. But the engine itself is heavier and there's more sound deadening materials, so adding weight to the product is going to in turn affect the vehicle's towing and payload capacity. So with that said, let's get on the road, because there's a lot of people that are enthusiasts towards the Wrangler and the Gladiator and enthusiasts towards a diesel engine. And I personally love a diesel. To option this 3-litre turbocharged diesel, you're going to have to pay another $7,400 over the 3.6-litre gasoline V6. And that is honestly a lot of money. And for diesel enthusiasts, this is a worthwhile cost of admission. But being in a vehicle that is already quite expensive, the diesel makes less and less sense. I'll bring up that extensive option list later in the video, because I will have to refer to my trusty handbook to get all of those factoids correct. So on the road, if you're used to the new generation of JL Wrangler and indeed the new Gladiator, you're not going to really notice too much of difference, but the diesel does add another element of charm. I love hearing the noises from the turbo whistling, that grunt and the grumble from the diesel engine itself. Now, there's no doubting that the drive of a Wrangler or a Gladiator is compromised up against any other compact crossover, because this isn't a crossover, it's a body-on-frame SUV, or in this case, a pickup truck. And even though you spend time in these vehicles like myself for only a week, I don't know if it's just a matter of me being a bit too sensitive of an individual, but I can find myself getting tired in this. So there's a lot of roll in the corners, the steering is a little vague, and when it comes to trying to have direct and immediate movement, that's not what this vehicle is really built for. On the highway, it is noisy, it's not a very aerodynamic shape, and given that there's no sound deadening in the roof panels because they are removable, it's very echoey in this vehicle. But even though everything I've just said is a negative, there's enough charm and personality that it can wash away all of those concerns to anybody that's seriously going out to buy one. About to merge onto a highway, barely even flexing my big toe. See a little roll there as I take the sharp corner. But as I get ready to merge, if this person lets me go, thank you very much. Just effortless and almost dramaless pickup in speed. If there wasn't so much wind noise rushing over the vehicle, then that would have been a pretty seamless process. I found these seats at first to be a little bit firm, and I was initially quite worried about my 1.5 hour drive home in this thing, but I really haven't felt any issues sitting down in it. Another thing you'll have to sacrifice with the Gladiator is interior storage. There really isn't a lot. You've got some rubberized cup holders and a little bit of storage space up here, but aside from the netting in the doors, there really isn't much else remaining. The glove box is tiny, the center console isn't all that deep, but the second row capability is impressive. You can fold the seats down totally flat or lift them up and have some hidden storage underneath. You'll actually notice that where you pull the latch, there's a keyhole, so that means that you can lock these seats. A great part of that hidden storage is that you actually have a compartment to put all of the screws and bolts that you would take off when removing the doors and other components across the Gladiator. Wonderful place to keep them organized and keep them safe. There's 2 USB-Cs and traditional USB outlets back there, a real power plug-in, and some quite chunky cup holders. Sitting behind myself isn't too much of a challenge in the Gladiator. Yes, my knees are pressing into the seat backs and there isn't much footroom to speak of, but I can sit back there with comfort, and just like I have up front, there's a lot of headroom with the removable panels. If you take them off, then that headroom would be infinite. But this is also the best build quality I've seen in, I think, any FCA product. There's been no squeaks or rattles, despite that there's a lot of components that come off of the vehicle, and even though it isn't set up to be refined, I think they've done an absolutely brilliant job with trying to make this vehicle as comforting as possible. Speaking briefly on the truck bed, you do have a soft closing trunk with a halfway open position where you fold the wire behind that little hook. This example has the foldable tonneau cover, and that easily rolls up, and there's a spare tire underneath the bed. So I've pulled over so I can address what is in the option book for the high altitude, because you start off with the overland trim, and the high altitude is essentially bundling all of those things together for what is a significant price increase, with a few other bespoke options included onto that package. So I'll start off with the most obvious things. We've got the 20-inch rims and the all-season tires. You've got the body color everything on this model. So the body color hardtop, the fenders, the bumpers, and the mirrors. For the inside, you've got this unique black leather and caramel stitching, which the leather feels fantastic where it is real leather, and then where it's leatherette actually feels quite good too. Stitching is impeccable. There's the 8.4-inch screen and the matte black badging. But on top of that, there are a few other optional extras. You have the wireless speaker built in. It's built by Alpine, just has some Jeep branding on it. There's the spray and bed liner, like I mentioned, the tonneau cover, the advanced safety system, so we have adaptive cruise control in this model, and the quite fantastically named Snazberry paint. Now all of this comes to a very inflated price, and now we're talking about a mid-size truck that's as expensive as nearly a top-of-the-line Ram 1500 and its competitors, and unfortunately that's where this vehicle just starts to make less and less sense. The base Gladiator already starts off at a quite expensive proposition over something like a Wrangler or Tacoma, but if you're an individual that wants this vehicle, it lives up to its mission intent, and there's been a lot of people that have garnered interest in this vehicle. A lot of people have driven by, they want to say hi, they want to find out more about it. So there are very few vehicles on the road that can do that, and if that's what you're looking for, then the Gladiator is going to serve you very nicely. Just be a little more conservative with the options, but in essence, it is a very, very desirable vehicle. So there you go. That's all of my thoughts with the 2021 Gladiator diesel. And even though this is far from a value proposition, as I've spoken to at length, I think this is a very, very desirable vehicle. If you go for one that has significantly less options and some of the technology that you may not need, this could be easily the best truck in class. So for something affordable, this isn't it. But for something desirable, the Gladiator is absolutely the best truck in this category. So there you go. That's all of my thoughts here on Hot Cars. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. All of that really helps us out a lot.